Hey guys, it's Miss Ava and I'm here with Calculina, and in this video we are going to help you improve your mental math with mental math tricks. Now these are tricks that have helped me to be faster and be more accurate with my calculations and be less reliant on calculators. They also help with being able to catch my own mistakes or catch the mistakes that students make. So I am excited to share this video with you guys and tell you the tricks of the trade that I use. Before we get started, don't forget there's a link in the description for the PDF that you can download so you can practice some of these problems to make sure that they are sticking with you in your mind. The answer key is also included in the PDF. Okay, so let's get started.
These are really quick ways for me to identify when something is wrong. Not necessarily that it's right, but just that it is wrong, that someone did something wrong or that I did something wrong. And that has to do with even and odd numbers. So if they're multiplying two even numbers, an even number times an even number is always an even number. And then what do you think happens over here when you're multiplying an odd number times an odd number?
Um, is it an odd number?
Yes. An odd number times an odd number is always going to give you an odd number. What about even times odd?
Um, is that going to be, that is going to be even, right?
Yes, exactly. So all you need is one even number and the rest can be odd and your whole thing is even. So like let's say if I had 2 times 3 times 7 times 9 times 3 times 11, like it doesn't matter how many odd numbers I have, if there's even one even number, the whole thing turns into an even number. Whereas if I didn't have that one, it would all be odd. Then similarly, when we look at just adding and subtracting with even and odd numbers, even plus even, what do you think, Calculina?
That would be even.
Good. And what about odd plus odd?
That's going to be an odd number?
It is. Think about like 3 plus 3.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's 6. So it's even?
Yes, an odd plus an odd number is always going to give you an even number. And so that means the only way to get an odd number when you're adding or subtracting is if one of them is even, the other one is odd. So this is the only way. And so these kind of tricks also just help me be able to catch when things are wrong, when I've calculated something wrong or a student has. And then now these are just some shorthand tricks for multiplying. Sometimes when I'm working with students and they're like, how did you do that so fast? Well, these are some of those tricks. So this is how I can calculate something like this, 27 times 4. What I do in my head is, since I know that 27 is the same as 9 times 3, right? 9 times 3. So then basically what I do in my head is I'm looking at the 27 like it's a 9 times 3 times 4. And then I'll multiply the 3 times 4 first, which gives me a 12. So then it turns into 9 times 12. And that is something that I already know, which is 108. So that's how I get to these kind of questions or these kind of answers really fast. Similarly, I can do the same thing with this one. 16 is the same as 8 times 2. And then, so if I did 8 times 2 times 7, well, I mean, I could do the 2 times 7, but that's 14, and then 14 times 8, I don't know what that is. But if I did 8 times 7, that gives me a 56. And then I multiply that by 2, then, which is kind of, it's pretty easy to double something in my head. So this will give me 112. So I can just kind of do that really quickly. And then the last multiplying trick that I have here is anytime you see multiplying by 5, what I do for this is I'll do this one times 10. So I'll do 73 times 10, and then I just divide that answer by 2, since I know that 10 divided by 2 is the same thing as 5. So what's the 73 times 10 going to be?
That is 730.
Good, 730. And then if we divide that by 2, then basically we can do like 700 divided by 2. And then we can add that to 30 divided by 2 in our heads. Like, you don't have to actually write all of this out, but we're just writing out what you would do in your head that would lead you to the answer. So we know what's 700 divided by 2, Calculina?
That's 350.
Good, 350. And then 30 divided by 2 is?
15.
Awesome. And then what is 350 plus 15 going to be then?
350 plus 15, that's going to be 365.
Awesome, 365. So that's a quick way to multiply things by 5, is just multiply that number by 10 and then divide the answer by 2. Then these are just some really quick shorthand ways of multiplying when it comes to percentages. So what we'll do is we're going to start with just this one and kind of go through the thing, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So what's 100% of 120? If I want all of 120, what is that number going to be?
That is just going to be 120.
Yes. And then what's 50% of 120 then?
So that's 60.
Good. Then what is 25% of 120?
30.
Yes, awesome. Then we get to like 10% of 120. So I'm guessing, have you just been doing like half of each of these? Is that how you've been getting these 3 so far?
Yeah.
Good, because you know that 50 is half of 10, or 50 is half of 100, and 25 is half of 50, and so on. But in this one, 10% of 120 just means that you move the decimal place over 1. So right now there's an invisible decimal right here, and you move it over, and so it becomes 12. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then what is 5% of 120 going to be if you know that 10% of 120 is 12?
Oh, would that just be 6?
Yes, exactly. And then 1% of 120. So if we know that for 10% you move the decimal over 1, then for 1% you're going to move it over twice. And so what will that give you?
Oh, like 1.2?
Exactly, that is correct. 1.2 is 1% of 120. Then let's go the other way. What happens if we go down this way? So first we already know 100% of 120 is 120. What's 200% of 120 going to be?
So that's just going to be like 240.
Yes. And 300% of 120?
360?
Perfect. And 500% of 120? Like, you just came up with these by multiplying, let's say 12 by 3, right? And then you just added the extra 0 from this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just have to do the same thing with this last one. 5 times 12, and then you add a 0. What is that going to be? What's 5 times 12?
60.
Yes, and then we just add the extra 0, 600. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, so then now if I had to do something like this in my head, right? And since I know how to calculate these guys really quickly in my mind, what I would do is for 35% of 120, let's say, you could do like 25% of 120 plus the 10% of 120. So that means we're adding these two, the 30 plus 12. What is that going to give you?
That is going to be 42.
Good. And then, so another awkward one, like 290% of 120, what could we use for that?
290.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, like 290, like what if we did this 300 minus the 10? That'd give us 290, right? 300% minus the 10% will give us the 290. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So then that means we have to do, what is 300% of 120, which is this 360, and then we take away 10% of 120, which is minus 12. So what is 360 minus 12 going to be?
That is going to be 348.
Perfect, 348. So that's how you can do those mentally as well. I know we're kind of going through it really slowly and detailed, but if you do enough of these, like this stuff will just come to you very quickly. And then the last couple of tricks that I have for shorthand, adding and subtracting. And again, some of these are things that you guys might already do, but that's okay. We're just kind of going through it anyway. Are things like, okay, if I have to do something like 180 minus 57, this is what goes on in my head. First, I do 180, and then I do minus 50 first. And then from that, I'm going to take away the 7. So this part right here, 180 minus 50, what is that, Calculina?
That is 130.
Good, 130. And then from 130, if I take away 7, what's that going to give me?
That will be 123.
Exactly, so 123. A lot of times students can like get this correct, although they're like one off. So for something like this, someone might say like, oh, that's going to be 133 because they just did the 8 times the 5, and so they assume that that should be a 3 right there. So 133. And so, yeah, that's why with subtraction, thinking about it like this really helps. Then for the next one, we can do the same kind of thing. We're going to do 92 minus 40. And then from that, we're going to take away 7. So what's 92 minus 40 going to be?
That is 52.
Good, 52. And then if we're trying to take away 7, one way you can think about that in your head is like you can do, since 7 is made up of 2 plus 5, right? So if we did 52 minus the 2, and then we take away 5. So first we do 52 minus 2, which is just 50, and then we go down 5 more, so that will give us 45. So that's like the trick with that one. And then similarly with adding, you can do the same kind of tricks. Let's see, for this one, I would do 156 plus 80 first, and then after that, I would add the 5. So what is the 156 plus 80?
That is going to be 236.
Yes, 236. And then we're just doing 236 plus 5, which again, you can think in your head like 236 plus 4, and then plus 1. Because the 4 plus the 6, that gives you a 10. And so this would become 240 plus 1, which is just 241. Okay, so these are just kind of my tricks for how I do things fast mentally, how I do math fast mentally. And these will be helpful to you, again, like I said, if you're taking an ACT or SAT test or any sort of time test, you have to calculate things fast. Sometimes it's faster to do it in your head than it is on a calculator.